Hey Marietta, so I'm back again with the fight, chapter 2. I awoke. I was laying flat on my stomach, my face pressed uncomfortably against something cold and hard. My body below the neck rested on something slightly softer. Slowly, I became aware of sunlight and shadows of shapes. I lifted my head, started to sit up, and my back suddenly caught fire. I fell forward, hit my head hard on the bed floor of the bathroom. My bathroom. I was home. Kevin. I listened. I could have looked around, but I didn't want to. Kevin. I got up, aware that my eyes were streaming muddy tears. Aware of the pain, God the pain. For several seconds, all I could do was lean against the wall and bear it. Slowly, I discovered that I wasn't as weak as I thought. In fact, by the time I was fully conscious, I wasn't weak at all. It was the only pain that made me move slowly. Carefully, like a woman 3 times my age, I could see now that I had been laying with my head in the bathroom and my body is in the bedroom. Now I went into the bathroom and turned on the water to fill the tub. Warm water. I don't think I could have stood hot or cold. My blouse was stuck to my back. It was cut to pieces, really, but the pieces were stuck to me. My back was cut pretty bad from what I could feel. I had seen old photographs of the backs of people who had been slaves. I could remember the scars, thick and ugly. Kevin had always told me how smooth my skin was. I took off my pants and shoes, got up in the tub, still wearing my blouse. I wouldn't let the water soften it until I could. I would let the water soften it until I could ease it from my back. In the tub, I sat for a long while without moving, without thinking, listening for what I knew I would lack here elsewhere in the house. The pain was a friend. Pain had never been a friend to me before, but now it kept me still. It forced reality on me and kept me sane. But Kevin, I leaned forward and cried into the dirty pink water. The skin of my back stretched painfully, and the water got pinker. And it was all pointless. There was nothing I could do. I had no control at all over anything. Kevin might as well have been dead, abandoned in 1819. Kevin was dead. Decades dead. Perhaps a century dead. Maybe I would be called back again, and maybe he would still be there, waiting for me, and maybe only a few years would have passed for him, and maybe he will be all right. But what had he said once about going west, watching history happen? But by the time my wounds had softened and my rag of a blouse had come unstuck from them, I was exhausted. I felt the weakness now that I hadn't felt before. I got out the tub and dried myself as best as I could, then stumbled into the bedroom and fell across the bed. In spite of the pain, I fell asleep at once. The house was dark when I awoke, and the bed was empty except for me. I had to remember why all over again. I got up swiftly, painfully, and went to find something that would make me sleep again quickly. I didn't want to be awake. I barely wanted to be alive. Kevin had gotten a prescription for some pills once when he was having trouble sleeping. I found what was left of them. I was about to take 2 of them when I got a look at myself in the medicine cabinet mirror. My face had swollen and was puffy and old looking. My hair was in tangled patches, brown with dirt and matted with blood. In my state earlier, I had not thought to wash it. I put the pills down and climbed back into the tub. This time I turned on the shower and somehow managed to wash my hair. Raising my arms hurt. Bending forward hurt. The shampoo that got into my cuts hurt. I started slowly, wincing, grimacing. Finally, I got angry and moved vigorously in spite of the pain. When I looked passable, human again, I took some aspirin. They didn't help much, but I was sane enough now to know that I have had something to do before I could afford to sleep again. I needed a replacement for my lost canvas bag. Something that didn't look too good for a nigga to be carrying. I finally settled on an old denim gym bag that I made and used back in high school. It was tough and roomy like the canvas bag and faded enough to look properly shabby. I would have put in a long dress this time if I had one. All I had though were a couple of bright, flimmy evening dresses that would have drawn attention to me and under the circumstances made me look ridiculous. Best to go on being a woman who dressed like a man. I rolled up a couple of pair of jeans and stuffed them into the bag. Then shoes, shirts, a wool sweater, comb, brush, toothpaste, and toothbrush. Kevin and I really missed those. 2 large cakes of soap, my washcloth, the bottle of aspirin. If Rufus called me while my back was sore, I would need them. My knife. The knife had come back with me because I happened to be wearing it in a makeshift a leather shift at my ankle. I didn't know whether to be glad or not that I hadn't had a chance to use it against Waylon. I might have killed him. I had been angry enough, frightened enough, humiliated enough to try. Then if Rufus called me again, I would have to answer for the killing. Or maybe Kevin would have to answer for it. I was suddenly very glad that I had left Waylon alive. Kevin was in for enough trouble. And two, when I saw Rufus again, if I saw him again, I would need his help. I wouldn't be likely to get it if I had killed his father, even the father he didn't like. I stuffed another pencil, pen, and scratch pad into the bag. I was slowly emptying Kevin's desk. All of my things were still packed, and I found a compact paperback history of slavery in America that might be useful. It listed dates and events that I should be aware of, and it contained a map of Maryland. The bag was too full to close completely by the time everything was in, but I tied it shut with his own ropes destroying and tied the destroying around my arm. I couldn't have stood anything tied around my neck, my waist. Then I was hungry. I went to the kitchen and found half a box of raisins and a full can of mixed nuts. To my surprise, I finished both then slept again easily. It was morning when I awoke and I was still at home. My back, whenever I moved, I managed to spray it with an ointment Kevin had used for sunburn. The whip the whip hurt like burns. The ointment cooled them and seemed to help. I had the feeling I should have used something stronger though. Heaven knew what kind of affection you could get from a whip kept limber with oil and blood. Tom had ordered grime thrown onto the back of the field hands he had whipped. I could remember the man screaming at the solution hit him, but his wounds had healed without infection. As I thought of the field hand, I felt strangely disoriented. For a moment, I thought Rufus was calling me again. Then I realized I wasn't really dizzy, only confused. My memory of a field hand being whipped suddenly seemed to have no place here with me at home. I came out the bathroom into the bedroom and looked around. Home, bed, without canopy, dresser, closet, electric lights, television, radio, electric clock, books, home. It didn't have anything to do with where I had been. It was real. It was where I belonged. I put on a loose dress and went out the front yard. The tiny, blue-haired woman who lived next door noticed me and wished me a good morning. She was on her hands and knees digging in her flower garden and obviously enjoying herself. She reminded me of Margaret, who always had flowers. I had heard Margaret guest compliment her on her flowers, but, of course, she didn't take care of them herself. Today and yesterday didn't mesh. I felt almost as strange as I had after my first trip back to Rufus, caught between his home and mine. There was a Volvo parked across the street, and there was powerless overhead. There were palm trees, a paved street. There was the bathroom I had just left, not a hole in the ground, bright, pretty toilet that you had to hold your breath to go into, but a bathroom. I went back into the house and turned the radio on to all news stations. There, eventually I learned that it was Friday, June 11th, 1976. I've gone away for nearly 2 months and come back yesterday, the same day I left home. Nothing was real. I learned that it was Friday, June 11th, 1976. I've gone away for nearly 2 months and come back yesterday, the same day I left home. Nothing was real. Kevin could be gone for years, even if I went after him today and brought him back tonight. I found a music station and turned the radio up loud to draw out my thinking. The time passed and I did more unpacking, stopping off and taking too many aspirins. I began to bring some order to my own office. Once I sat down at my typewriter and tried to write about what had happened, made about 6 attempts before I gave up and threw them all away. Someday when it's over, if it was ever over, maybe I will be able to write about it. I called my favorite cousin in Pasadena, my father's sister daughter, and had her buy groceries for me. I told her I was sick and Kevin wasn't around. Something about my tone must have reached her. She didn't ask any questions. I was still afraid to leave the house, walking or driving. Driving, I could easily kill myself, and the car could kill other people if Rufus called me from it at the wrong time. Walking, I could get dizzy and fall while crossing the street, or I could fall on the sidewalk and attract attention. Someone would come to help me, a cop, anyone, then I would be guilty of taking someone else back with me and straining them. My cousin was a good friend. She took one look at me and recommended a doctor she knew. She also advised me to send the police after Kevin. She assumed that my bruises were his work, but when I swore to silence, I knew she would be silent. She and I had grown up keeping each other's secrets. I never thought you would be fool enough to let a man beat you, she said. And she left. She was disappointed in me, I think. I never thought I would either, I whispered when she was gone. I waited inside the home with my denim bag always nearby. The days passed slowly, and sometimes I thought I was waiting for something that just wasn't going to happen. But I went on waiting. I read books about slavery, fiction and nonfiction. I read everything I had in the house that was even distantly related to the subject, even Gone with the Wind, or part of it. But its version of Happy Darkies and Cinder, Love and Bondage was more than I could stand. Then somehow I caught up in one of Kevin's World War II book, a book of excerpts from the recollection of concentration camp survivors. Stories of beating, starvation, filth, disease, torture, every possible degradation, as though the Germans had been trying to do it only a few years what the Americans had worked at for nearly 200. The book depressed me, scared me, made me stuff Kevin's sleeping pills in my bag. Like the Nazis, whites had known quite a bit about torture, quite a bit more than I ever want to learn. And I will be back with chapter 3. I'm a yachter.